All right, so now we are on tectonics and rising and falling sea level. So we have emergent and submergent coastlines. So emergent coastlines are where the ground is coming up. Again, this is your subduction, your convergent zones. And oh, okay. Um, Submergent coastlines are where the ground is coming down, and that is your divergent passive margin. And large rivers drain water and sediments from the continent interior, and then they put them in the ocean, which can extend your coastline, raising it up as well. Um, Here's an example of how sea floor spreading affects sea level. So this is where it's slow, so it's kind of cool. And because it's cool, like hot things rise, right, and take up more volume. So this is cool and more compact. So we have a lower sea level. And then here where it's really fast and the ground doesn't really have that much time to cool off before it spreads out. Um, it's still hot, taking up more volume. So you really just have a smaller ocean basin then. Um, and so sea level rises. Glaciers as well, although that's not tectonics, affects your sea level. That's what you hear about in the news and stuff right now, because I guess the tectonics is forever present or much slower of a process than glacials are. So the more ice you have on the continent, the less water there is in the ocean. So you have a fall, and then with less glaciers, more of the water is in the oceans and the rest of the water cycle, and so sea level rises. Um, in an emergent coastline, to you can see the historic beaches and berms. We call those wave cut platforms, and here's a little picture of one. Um, and drowned valleys. This is where sea level rises. Um, and this is just like a river valley. You'll see them up in glacial areas where, those glacial valleys, and then the water comes up into that valley. Um, so, and I guess I should say too, in geology, a lot of times, so we don't necessarily know. You see this, and just from this picture, you don't know if it was either from sea level dropping, and the water used to be here and now it's dropped, or if it's from an emergent coastline where the water stayed the same, but the ground came up, because either would give you that same kind of look. So you have to do a little bit more of an investigation to know which case it is. And that's not true for just wave cut platforms, but for a lot of other things that show sea level rise and fall in geology. It could either be from ocean rising, or it could be from tectonics and ground changes. So here's an example of, well, I guess I'll start here. So these are areas that are very vulnerable to sea level rise. And why is that? Why is there so much more here than there is here? And that's because of the shape of this beach. This is our divergence. So it's this very low lying, sloping coastal areas. So if it comes up, it being the water, if the water comes up so many feet high, it's going to cover a lot of a larger land area than it is on the West Coast, where things are much steeper. You're only going to cover this much land area, and it's really not going to affect that many people either, because this is like a cliff. People really, well, there are people that build homes on the edge of the cliff, knowing that cliff is not going to last more than 30 or 50 years. They do it anyways. But you really don't have a lot of like cities or big areas here. It's just too steep to try to build. Here you do. You have, huge cities that have been built in these low-lying areas all up along the East Coast. Um, and then here's just a picture of a submerged coastline. And that is it for rise and sea level, rise and fall of sea level.